Hi, I'm Joseph H. Vertino, professional author, uh, coming to you in this video on my YouTube channel about my first book called My Own Religion, The Power of Love, which is this book right here. Hopefully you can see it somewhat clearly. Beautiful cover, back cover with some words on it and my picture. And it's a gorgeous book. I will read some of the table of contents to you of the different chapters that I have in this. There's 46 different chapters / segments, and this type of book is called a manifesto. So a manifesto is only your personal experience, and I'm 34 years old, and I started this 8 years ago, and I was a very observant child, so you could see how this manifesto could be such a great book. Because someone who's in that nature of observation, basically their whole life, right? So, and then I, of course, well, to some people, maybe, of course, if you've known any of my stuff before, am professionally a spiritual guide. So, I guess further to that point of, you could say what translates for me personally, as it goes with books, right? It's always personal. What translates with me personally as the author in this book is a great concern in context of where are the holes in all of our lives, right? Kind of globally, says Mr. Leo. I'm a Leo also, and I refer to myself as that, and I always basically combine it with important points. But Mr. Leo in the idea of general, universal, global, right? This bigness. So I think that's another thing that makes this manifesto so great is the bigness in the applicability of it, that it matters universally, as truth always does. And this book is written with God and truth. And then, so I'll read you some of the table of contents. So the title is My Own Religion, The Power of Love. Very empowering title. So some of these are Understanding Being Human. I have a beautiful image of the vocalist Bobby McFerrin in that one, and I do my best to actually come to a definition, which I do at the end of the segment, of what it really means to be human. And what I love about my writing is that it's very much pulling, meaning that it brings the person, the individual, forward. It inches them or takes them a mile, right? But kind of it's there's something to do, in life, and I feel that is so important for us to get into on our track, as individuals. And I feel that reading something like this chapter, Understanding Being Human, can do that. Some other ones, My Path Toward God. I'm very, very open about my relationship with God. Another one is Karma, which I present in a very respectful light in context of Mahayana Buddhism and Tibetan stuff like that. And I provide a kind of less mystical and more, I guess you could say, a more commonly understood understanding with an analogy of the human form and how one hand is attached to the other hand in the sense that it's the entire body. But if one hand does something that injures the other hand, it doesn't make sense because it's all the same person. So that's kind of like the idea of negative karma, right? So that's another chapter. There's one called The Importance of Adventure, which to me, you start to see through, if someone was to literally judge this book by its cover based on its title, My Own Religion. So if they got caught on this kind of word here in bold that we can read, and why that would be nil, why that wouldn't matter in this chapter, The Importance of Adventure, in that way, the whole idea of personal religious experience is something that has to be earnest, sincere, honest, authentic. And I feel that people getting caught on this religion bashing idea, or religion seeing the word and rejecting an experience, right? People getting caught in that net of regressive nature, because you're in denial of life, right? Which is the opposite of what? Opposite of adventure, right? So if you understand that, what's the craving of the human soul? Freedom, right? And I do, for people that are seeking enlightenment, this book is for you. Yes, whether you're religious or non-religious, no matter where you're at in your life, so to speak, on any of these possible levels. Yeah, I pray that you give it a chance, so to speak, and you allow yourself to experience what truly empowering your in the yeah what empowering feels like, empowering yourself, enabling yourself, which is, no matter what, a good thing. And so the path of adventure, well, in that way, the only possible thing that could go on, so to speak, in true adventure, that we could say would be like a religious thing, would be a personal religious experience, we could say, right? In that kind of way. It's just an open field. Like I have on my website, I have a kind of these images, these beautiful images of this kind of vastness of landscapes and skies and clouds, and like a people hiking through clouds and kind of stuff like this. In that way, adventure is nothing without that. Literally, it's like the setting, right? It's the openness, right? So in that way, someone could make these choices in life that are simple and profound, but when we all see the truth that it's always relevant. This next point, that this explanation, right, of I need all these reasons, right, or I need to check in with all these different things, is a disempowering thing, right? Instead of, like, I think of like my dad, who's a Capricorn and an extrovert, and would say, well, if I have the resources, I can literally make a snap decision to and it's a life, uh a big life choice, right, to go and live here and immediately do it. And in that way, all of us want to be in that empowered place, right? Because our personality is never wrong. The extroversion, the Capricornness, the ability, heaven forbid, the ability to do the thing, right, is obviously never wrong. So that's one of my chapters. One that I really do take very seriously, as you can probably tell by this far in the video, that I do take, well, my books very seriously. And as a Reiki master, I take your well-being very seriously. And as a spiritual guide, there's another chapter called The Power of Being Weird, which I actually put my own image here in Buffalo, my hometown, basically outside of a Walgreens with a winter coat on and a hat and a little smile in my beard. And so the power of being weird. This one is very empowering in the sense that we all, another task kind of globally, right? For everybody. We all have we're all alive. We're all here. We all, that's a common thing. And then the power of being weird is basically, are you going to allow yourself to fully live? Right? Like I think of Jesus Christ, who's also in this book and taken very seriously and respectfully, the ascended master Jesus Christ. Are you going to fully live? Right? That idea of kind of the Holy Spirit and being full of life and respecting life, and that fullness rather than you could say anything else, so to speak. So the power of being weird, a very serious chapter, but it's okay to laugh at it, right? The title's kind of funny. And I even put it down as a list. These are the things that you'll have to transcend, right? In your life. And one of them is basically giving in to that caring, the bad kind of caring, right? Of caring what other people think, whether they're your friend or foe. It's still, there's a limit to that. There's a thing in life that we have to accept called reason, right? And then in that way, you start to see how to discern and live. It's basically how to live, right? Very much about Jesus still in there. But notice that I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm not trying to, say now you have to believe it, blah, 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 what have you. So that's that chapter. There's another one, what is soul love? And I put the picture of the beautiful teal swan, the spiritual catalyst, and her art. She has a beautiful circle of art in the front of that segment or chapter of the book. The three jewels, the Buddhist foundation, I put in this book, and a beautiful statue with some flowers, colored flowers around a Lord Buddha, and I give it very clearly of each jewel. So I know that sometimes in these kind of books, and I am a poet, that you hear the title and you go, I demand, right? Your spirit, your soul goes, I demand that you be clear, that you provide clarity. And then you go to the chapter and you go, oh, and it's like Nietzsche, maybe a little bit, or kind of winky wonky drugs, right? Or something like this. And it's this kind of, something that didn't provide you with any clarity. So what I do, and why I'm very proud of my work, is because I do that in my writing, and yet I'm also poetic. So certainly, and very important, maybe ultimately important, right? We could say the three jewels. So I go and I provide each one very clearly, because they are foundational for life. Find out why. Read the book. There's another chapter just called pain. And as a master healer, I take that obviously ultimately seriously, and I provide a proper perspective on pain globally. And I do give insight naturally of how to inch forward in life to be relevant, right, for people that are in pain. With that, but you're knowing, what I love about my writing and my insight on healing is you're knowing intellectually something that is certain from my work. So in that way, you could see how that's such a benefit, to be honest, right? About my own work, right? Such a benefit. How to deal with pain, generally, right? The absence of self. The absence of self is there's a beautiful man named Zen Master Rama, who unfortunately died in the year I was born in 1990, and I put him in meditation, which he was absolutely wonderful at. And what I love about that chapter is the whole point of the chapter is, and this might get the people who are adverse to religion to be respectful, and hopefully not offensive earlier in the video to you, that the absence of self in that way we could say is for everyone and is all inclusive, even though it's not anything. And that in that way, it's devoid of what we could say is that religiosity, which could be a huge relief to a lot of people. And of course, we have to find that out for ourselves, what that is, the absence of self. So let's say one or two more. And then I do talk about angels and spiritual guides, and I have lovely images of Archangel Raphael and Archangel Michael in that chapter, and I take that very seriously. I see God's will as education, which is probably why I love writing so much. And yeah, in that way that just providing some personal love from myself, Dr. Joe, to you. I feel I don't remember every word that I wrote in that chapter, but I certainly know my intentions are pure. So hope that makes you feel a little bit more comfortable today and every day. And then I do talk about death, and I have a picture of a Buddhist monk in ochre in that chapter. I talk about work and discipline, which I feel is very, very relevant. We could say, obviously, and I mentioned the 5 Reiki principles. The third one is just for today, I will do my work honestly. And in that way, just like the absence of self, the 5 Reiki principles also would provide some kind of life juice, right? For it really is for everybody, the 5 Reiki principles, but also back to the people who would be adverse to religion, so to speak. It's so wonderful to have an inclusiveness, right? Inclusive, feeling included, right, is so important, and something like my book and my speech, I would hope, and everything that I do would make you feel that and eventually know that, meaning that you realize that in your own personal life. And utterly, my work is about that, to guide, right? I have one about organized religion and God. I have one on relationships. I absolutely love relationships and providing wisdom and clarity on globally, again, all of them in that way. So we're at 14 minutes here in the video. I don't want to take too long, but it's a wonderful book. There's 46 different segments of all of those different ones that you heard, and maybe about 8 of them. It's 266 pages in absolute total, and there is something called a log of media in this book, where I go through and I provide inside of the writing obviously how references work and logs like that, you put it in the writing and then it gets attached in the back of the book behind the references. It's the very last thing. And an example of that is I have a song in there called Hope for Enlightenment by Lama Gyurme, a Buddhist Tibetan wonderful singer who came out of his monkness, so to speak, and shared this wonderful gift with the world. And all kinds of different examples, Bobby McFerrin, to use another musical one. And then there's other references of different philosophers like Soren Kierkegaard. Yeah, so all kinds of wonderful, very informative, kind of deepness to the book, but it's also quite readable. It's not something that will bore you. I've noticed with my music and with my books and really myself, says Mr. Leo, I'm certainly not boring. And like I said earlier, I see God's will as education. And even if we just see that as a passionate person who's caring and leave the rest of it out of it, right? The God, whatever, whatever, instead of coming to a discrepancy about someone's belief system, seeing through that, right? And that's growth. And if you're in that place and it's okay, you're alive, you're here, and I'm glad to be sharing this time with you. But yeah, I see God's will as education, and that, in that way that the most important thing is civility. To share a little bit about myself, and I do have a website on this message. Please do check that out also. And yes, there's a discount on the book, 55% discount from retail price, and you can receive a free copy to keep of the book. Obviously, it's final edit, it's all ready to go. Just say so, and you will be sent a free copy. So yes, and there are other books that I have as of right now in June 2025. I have 4 completed books. This is the first one in print. I'm looking to get all of my books eventually in print. And I have 3 more books as of right now in motion, so to speak, and not in the end zone, not finished. But yes, so thank you so much from the bottom of my spirit to yours in Lakesh. A wonderful figure mentioned in this book is Drunvalo Melchizedek. His image is in the chapter called the importance of self-expression. And I actually mentioned him as a positive spiritual figure, and that he was actually very open and beautiful throughout his entire life, had a vastly important love for wisdom, we could say, and was very beautiful with his tears actually on camera. And I put that under the caption for that chapter. So thank you. Please do check out my material, purchase this book, share it openly and honestly. And in the copyright, you're allowed to use the book anywhere, basically. I basically just put a little note that maybe you could tell me or tell somebody like that. And obviously, you do be respectful about it, but feel free. I'm allowing people to take any part of this book and share it and use it however they want to use it, even if it's kind of a paper mache, image of whatever, or something like this. So thank you so much. Angel blessings. All right. Bye for now.